Hi everyone, welcome to this new class. Today we are going to be dealing with writing, and the topic for this lesson will be about traveling. I don't know if you remember last class we were talking about the same thing, about items you need when you travel, and maybe some of them were really important for you to travel well, and of course they are very important if you want to enjoy your trip. So in this lesson we are going to consolidate some of the vocabulary we have seen in the previous class. So remember, this is the second part of travel. So before starting this lesson, let me share with you what is the learning goal for this lesson. Today we are going to write about items and arrangements for travel. And as you saw in the previous class, we have already dealt with the vocabulary. But in this lesson, let me show you some grammar you may probably need when you want to share some tips and advices for enjoying the trip. And these words are important, especially when you are trying to give some tips and advices. And these words are called modal verbs. There are many types of modal verbs, but today we are going to be using modal verbs of obligation and prohibition and for giving advice. So you have probably known some of them, but let's talk about the modal verbs for obligation and prohibition. Among modal verbs for obligation and prohibition, we have must and have to. And in this side of advice, you will have should and ought to. Don't worry about the usage of these terms because you're going to have two videos to explain a little bit more how to use them. Furthermore, you will have more practicing links attached to the lesson. If you want more explanation, don't worry about it because you're going to receive it from the teacher and with the videos. And also, I have added some links to exercise to practice the usage of these modal verbs. So, we are going to be dealing with writing, and in this lesson, we are going to write about a list of tips for traveling. Please, I want you to remember that the last class we have already written about our dream trip. We already have information about the place in which we want to maybe someday want to travel. So for start writing this list of tips for traveling, we have to follow a process, okay? So let's start. First, we start with the planning section. In this planning section, we just have to start with ideas. And please, let's start to give ideas. And let me set up this question to you so you come up with new ideas about what you're going to write about. And the question is this: what kind of tips do we need to travel? So you can get some ideas. For example, ideas about clothes, ideas about items, and ideas about arrangements. Ideas about clothes are especially focused on the clothes you need for a certain place. For example, when you go to Cusco, you need warmer clothes. And when you go to a place like, for example, Mancora, which is a beach in Piura, you need things like sunscreen, sunglasses, and something like that. And about the ideas of arrangements, it has to do with the place where you are going to stay. Are you going to stay in a hotel or in a home of a person you know? So please, in this section, you have to write your ideas about the things you need to travel. In the second part, we have drafting. So since you already have the ideas, I recommend you to write some sentences using these modal verbs. But remember, have to and must are used for talking about obligation and prohibition. So I recommend you to check out the grammar explanation. And in the part of ought to and should, we use them for giving advice. So here you have two examples. For example, you could write, you must have your passport when you travel to Colombia. Of course, this is necessary since you are traveling to a foreign country. And the documents you have in our country are different from the place where you are traveling to. Another example, we have, you should bring warm clothes when you travel to Cusco. Of course, you need warm clothes because you are traveling to a place which is very cold. So here you can start with sentences created by using the ideas you wrote before. So my personal recommendation is for you to use this chart. Please make sure you download the worksheet in which you're going to have this chart to write your sentences using your ideas in the previous section. So write two sentences using have to, two sentences using must. Of course, you can write negative sentences like don't have to or mustn't. And in the same way, you can write with ought to and should. And of course, you can use the negative form of them. Then we have the revising section. In this part, we have to make sure that we have a clear idea of what we are going to write about. So with that objective in mind, I provide to you and structure. So this structure has 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph will be about the introduction. Here you have to answer where are you going to travel and why these tips are important. In the second paragraph, you have to put the tips themselves. And in the third one, you have to write a conclusion in which you are going to encourage and motivate your readers to try these tips when they are traveling to that place you mentioned. The next stage is the editing section. In this section, you need to share your answers, you need to ask for help, you need to be aware of your mistakes, and even you have to ask the help from your teacher. So in this part, I recommend you to talk to your partners and teacher so they can give you some correction and assessment. At the end of this section, you will have a clear and a well-written composition. And in the last section, we have the publishing. In this part, you have to write the final composition. So in this part, you can use some virtual tools like Canva or Genially. Here, you can come up with new ideas for the presentation itself. And I recommend you to be creative and try to do your composition as attractive as possible. So that will be all for now. Thank you for participating in this lesson. I hope you can have fun and learn more about English. See you.